just housing, employment, those are some of the things that's really, really needed, especially coming home after so many years.
When we have more policing and more incarceration, there's more risk of people's civil rights and liberties being impeded upon. That just isn't making anyone safer.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to A More Perfect District, a podcast from the ACLU of DC. We work to protect and advance civil liberties and civil rights for people who live in, work in, and visit DC, in court, in the legislature, and in the street. I'm your host for today's episode, Alicia Yass, Policy Advocacy Director at the ACLU of DC. Each episode, we take a deep dive into the civil rights and civil liberties issues shaping Washington, D.C. today, and we explore how we can protect our rights and move closer to a more just and free D.C. For years, the conversation about public safety in D.C. has followed the same script. More police, more arrests, tougher sentences. But D.C. deserves better, and the evidence shows we can do better. The truth is, we've been approaching public safety the wrong way. Over-relying on policing and jails hasn't made our community safer. What actually works is investment in families, in young people, and in the people returning home after incarceration. That's exactly what our new report, Building Safety Through Resources, A Better Path to Public Safety in DC, is all about. It makes the case that local DC leaders need to shift to a public safety approach centered on prevention and support, because the safest communities are not the ones with the most police. They're the ones with the most resources. Today, I'm going to talk to two guests who are going to help us understand why this is important. First, we'll talk to my colleague, Peggy Raymond, Policy Counsel at the ACLU of DC. We'll walk through the report, what the research shows, and what a better path forward for DC actually looks like. Then, I'll be joined by James Carpenter, Poet Ambassador and Thrive Under 25 Strategy Chair at Free Minds Book Club and Writing Workshop, a DC organization doing exactly the kind of work our report says we need more of. James will share what he sees on the ground every day and what he knows communities actually need in order to thrive. Hey, Peggy, it's so great to be here with you today.
Same here. Great to be with you, Alicia.
Yeah, so thanks for digging into these issues with me today. But before we get into the meat of what we're going to talk about, I'd love for you to just share a little bit about your background and what you do at the ACLU DC.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I work as a policy counsel at the ACLU DC. I work with you and our other colleagues to, advocate for ACLU DC's civil liberties and civil rights priorities. We advocate before the DC Council, before the mayor's office, DC agencies. So that's a little bit about what I do at the ACLU DC. My background, I'm a lawyer, and I used to be a legal aid attorney representing low-income folks in a variety of cases. And here I am now.
Great. And we are so appreciative of you bringing that experience and working with us. So ACLU DC recently released a report called Building Safety Through Resources, A Better Path to Public Safety in DC. So let's just chat about that report. And before we get into the meat of it, what does it mean to build safety through resources? What's that messaging mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, as you said, we'll get into the meat and the details of the recommendations that are included in the report. But when we're talking about building safety through resources, we're talking about an approach to public safety that really, looks at the root causes of public safety issues and tries to stop crime before it occurs. So getting to families and kids here in the district and making sure that they have those resources that they need to feel secure and be supported so that our community overall is safer and more secure as well.
Great. So it's sort of like these other issues are interconnected.
Totally.
And we can't separate them all out.
Yes, exactly.
Cool. So why did the ACLU write this report and why now?
Right. I think that we're seeing our lawmakers in DC really focus on an outdated approach to public safety. We're looking at over policing and over incarceration of our neighbors here in DC. One standout example that comes to mind that I know we'll talk about a little bit more is these teen curfews that we're seeing across being implemented across DC right now. The report gets into recommendations of ways that we can actually, put resources toward programming and services that helps teens instead of over policing them. So I think the report contains lots of different recommendations that we'll get into about ways to do that.
Great. Yeah. And Yeah, I mean, we've been looking at a lot of things. I know the curfew is one,
Yes.
pretrial detention is an issue in
Right.
DC. And, you know, if there's ways that we can sort of avoid having to get to those places in the first place through
Yes.
programming and other support, then that's just a much better solution for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, how are resources and public safety interconnected? You talked a little bit about this, but I think, you know, the budget is only so much, right? So that's where we're digging into where we put our resources, right?
Right, absolutely. I think the way that we see, these two things, resources and public safety being connected, again, looking at the root causes of public safety issues. And one of those root causes of a lot of public safety issues is that so many individuals and families here in the district just don't have their basic needs met. And by that, we mean they don't have access to affordable health care. They don't have safe places for their kids to go after school. They don't have access to affordable childcare. So I think that when folks don't have these basic needs met, these public safety issues often can tumble into a more uncontrollable place. And we want to try to get those things into, under control by putting the resources that are needed toward them at the outset.
Yeah. And we've both said the word or the phrase public safety
Yes.
several times.
Yes.
How the ACLU focuses on civil rights and civil liberties. How does public safety play into that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think they're totally interconnected, and we certainly believe that at the ACLU of DC. When we're taking this outdated approach to public safety, where we're relying on policing and incarceration, especially of our young people, but of all of our neighbors here in DC, that means that we're taking an approach that just isn't making anyone safer. When we have more policing and more incarceration, there's more risk of people's civil rights and liberties being impeded upon. We're seeing more folks pushed toward the criminal justice system. We don't want to see that. We want to disrupt that kind of, mode of thinking and instead kind of try to address these issues again at the root.
Yeah, great. We hear a lot about investing in communities. I think you've mentioned that. We know when we talk about resources, we're investing those resources.
Right.
But what exactly does that mean and what can it look like?
Yeah, maybe we can talk through, sort of an example of where we see this. I think
Yeah.
at base, investing resources into public safety means that we're seeing government funds go toward programs and services that actually get to all of us here in DC and make our communities safer. But again, one example of that, I think, is when we look at teens and kids here in the district. We want to make sure that these kids and teens are receiving services that they need, whether that's food assistance, whether it's kid and teen informed programming, meaning they have a say in what type of, programming the organizations are putting out there and the district is kind of developing for them. So it's putting those resources and investing those resources into our people so that the community overall can benefit.
Great. Yeah. And talking about the report and the details, it looks at three sort of groupings of
Yes.
people to focus on. We talk about supporting families, supporting youth, and then
Right.
also supporting people returning to our communities from incarceration.
Right.
So let's dig into each of those and
Yeah.
talk a little bit more about them. So let's start with families. When it comes to supporting families, what should lawmakers be doing to support and use the funding that they have?
Yeah, absolutely. So the report contains lots of recommendations. So I really urge folks to go to acludc.org and take a look at the report for the full scope of our recommendations. But one example of ways that lawmakers can support families is, by fully funding the DC Child Care Subsidy Program. This is a program that subsidizes childcare costs for low and moderate income families here in the district. As we know, that can make a huge difference in a family's, bottom line and their ability to put food on the table, that little bit of extra money that they can have some flexibility with. We know that child poverty here in the district is actually higher than the national average. So we know that families need some support. So that's one way that lawmakers can really try to support families.
And that actually sounds like it would support families in two ways. It makes sure they have reliable childcare, which puts money back in their pocket if they
Right.
don't have to pay as much for that. But then having that childcare means that the adults in the family can work and have jobs and earn money as well.
Yes, totally. A parent can feel safe knowing that they are at work, earning money for their family, but their kid has someone safe and trusted taking care of them. So yeah, to your point, it works in many ways.
Many ways. Perfect.
Mhm.
Yeah. So the next sort of group in the report was youth in the district. We talked about them a lot. They're been in the news a lot. This
Yes.
curfew legislation is concerning. What does the report talk about doing for youth in the district specifically?
Yeah, absolutely. There's lots of recommendations again for youth and teen programming and services that we can provide here in the district to help our kids have safe places to go and fun things to do that, you know, like all of us were teenagers once. That's really all we're looking for, right? But one great example of something that we think can be expanded across agencies and across the district is the Teen Council. This is a program that the DC Public Library facilitates. It's a paid employment program for teens that are selected, work in the DC Public Library, and then they also meet with other members to kind of serve as advisors on programming that the library has specifically for teens. So it's a win-win situation and has been a really successful program, and we'd love to see that expanded in more areas across the district. And many other programming opportunities I think would benefit from having kids and teens actually talk to the adults who are running these programs and say, hey, I would love that, or that doesn't appeal to me at all. So we hope that there can be more teen and kid buy-in when we're developing these things.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all remember being teenagers and
Yeah.
being like, oh, everyone's telling me what to do.
Exactly.
But having some ownership will hopefully get other teens invested as well.
Yeah.
It sounds like this program's great because it gives like something to do, but then is also giving kids some money and like that gives them autonomy to do things on their own.
Yeah, we all remember our first job. It feels good to get that paycheck in your pocket when you're a teen, and it creates a sense of agency and, you know, gives you some leadership experience, and I think every teen would benefit from that.
Yeah, and then particularly being a DC government agency, they're also like connected to the larger DC community.
Yes, exactly. You know, there are these rec centers and there's libraries in every neighborhood, so it's an accessible way for programming to kind of be brought to kids and teens across the city.
Yeah, that sounds great. And the last group of people talked about in the report and sort of that need more support are those returning to the district
Right.
from incarceration. How can our lawmakers support this population?
Yeah, absolutely. We know that folks that are returning to the district, to their community from a period of incarceration are really facing an uphill battle. They're trying to figure out, you know, where they can find safe and affordable housing, job opportunities, affordable health care. And so it's really important that lawmakers are investing resources in programs and services that help these folks have a smooth path back into the community so that they're set up for success. One program that's doing a great job of this is the Free Minds Book Club. Have lots of reentry services and support available for folks returning from periods of incarceration. And we'd love to see the district invest in more programming like that.
Yeah, well, we're talking to somebody from Free Minds Book Club to get more
That's
information
great.
from their point of view, which is really exciting.
Yes, very.
And I think what a lot of people may not realize about those returning to DC from incarceration,
Mhm.
they're not just returning from the DC jail necessarily from
Right.
being in the district. They are often sent to federal facilities across the countries where they've been really disconnected.
Right, exactly. So it's even more of a, you know, or can be even more of a bumpy road back, acclimating back into the community here. And we want to make sure that our neighbors in the district are set up in the best way possible so that, you know, they're successful in their reentry. And I think that just leads further into our, you know, goals of public safety overall.
Yeah, absolutely. So thinking about all these recommendations that the report makes to lawmakers and to the district in general about how to support these various communities, what do you think would happen if these recommendations were implemented?
Yeah, I think if lawmakers, you know, if the district ultimately implemented all the recommendations included in the report, I think it would be totally transformative for the district and for all of us, honestly, who live here. You know, I'm thinking about a family with a low income, you know, a parent who's struggling to make ends meet. What would happen if that parent had access to a fully funded DC childcare subsidy program, if they had access to a DC child tax credit, you know, food assistance, safe places for their kids to be after school? It would just be, I think, totally transformative to that family. And when we think about investing in our families and neighbors that way, we, you know, can see how it will pay dividends for the community overall.
Yeah, I think we often think of these programs very siloed. It's like, here's how
Yes.
much money we're paying for the police. Here's how
Uh-huh.
much money we're paying for parks. here's how much money we're paying for education, but this is a lot of how these things connect to each other. And like when you pay some money for parks that provides after school programming for youth, then they're not necessarily on the streets, and the police don't need to be interacting with them. And so the money can sort of flow between these various programs, and needs to flow between the various programs.
Yeah, absolutely. It's totally necessary. And I think we can see that when, that's happening, things work and we all are feeling safer and more secure in our homes and in our communities.
Yeah, absolutely. And if people listening to us talk about this are like, hey, that's a really good idea. What can I do? What would you tell them?
Yeah, I would tell them every DC resident should feel empowered to contact their DC council member and tell their council member what their priorities are around public safety. We hope that you'll echo the recommendations that are in this report and tell your, elected officials that you want to see a DC that's reflected in these recommendations, where, public funds are invested in these programs and services that help us all and make us all safer. So please contact your DC council member. We're currently in budget season, but really at any time you can register to testify at a public hearing before the DC council. You can also go to our website at acludc.org, just to give a plug there again, for more budget advocacy resources, to read the report, and to sign up for emails so that you can stay informed.
Yeah, that's great. And I think, your point, just tell your council members what you want. I mean, they're there to represent you.
Right, exactly. They want to hear from their constituents. And, I think it's great and necessary when we make those priorities heard, because they want to hear them.
Yeah, great. So moving away from the report, final question for you. Taking off your employee of the ACLU DC hat.
Yes.
What do you love about being a district resident?
Oh my gosh, so many things. So I was born in DC, came back in 2019, and have been so happy to live here. I love to eat and I love trying new restaurants. My neighborhood has amazing restaurants. We have a very rich immigrant community here in DC. So we have a total diversity of types of food and restaurants. And that's my favorite thing, is just sampling our many and varied restaurants.
Yeah, that's great. I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
Great food here. Never going to go hungry in the district.
No, definitely not.
If you want to explore different places.
Totally.
Yeah, very cool. Well, thank you for joining me today, Peggy, and sharing your thoughts. I think this was really informative.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me.
Great. Hi, James. Thank you so much for joining me here today.
I'm happy to be here.
Good. Yeah, I'm really excited to hear more about you, about Free Minds book club and writing workshop, and just dig into these topics. So to get us started, tell us a little bit about Free Minds book club and writing workshop. How long has it been around? What do you all do?
So Free Minds Book Club Writing Workshop, it's been around over 20 years. It started, I always want to say his name, Glenn McGinnis. Kelly and Tara, those are the co-executive directors. They went to media, like newscasters in like Australia, and they did a story on death row in the United States for the Australian audience. So during the research, they reached out to someone named Glenn McGinnis in Texas, or he reached out to them, sent them a letter, and they started corresponding with Kelly because she loved books, he loved books, so they started reading. And he was 16 years old when he was, put on death row as a juvenile. And one of his, he was ultimately executed, but one of his dying wishes was to start a book club. So that's what it came, Free Minds Book Club.
That's really a cool story. I think books and stories just bring together so many different people and really have forever. I mean, storytelling is really embedded in humanity.
Yeah.
Cool. And your role with Free Minds Book Club is as a poet ambassador and Thrive Under 25 strategy chair. Can you tell us about those roles and what you do?
So as a poet ambassador, so Free Mind Book Club, one of the things that we do is we take poetry, we get poetry from guys who are incarcerated, and they send their poetry to us, and we give them feedback on their poetry. In the community, we call it Write Night. So right now we might be at a school. Like one time we was at Sidwell Friends, and the students there, they did a Write Night, and We bring the poetry of those incarcerated. We put them on the table, allow them to give feedback to the poetry. And the encouragement that people incarcerated get from the feedback from the poetry, you just never know the impact the person might have, just telling like, keep writing, or I really enjoyed this line, or they try to interpret the poet's work. And so that's the role I do as a poet ambassador. I would actually read the poetry in person, on behalf of those incarcerated. As a strategy chair, it's like an advocacy coalition with other advocacy organizations in Washington, D.C. As a strategy chair, my job is just to strategize around a particular issue, something like the Youth Rehabilitation Act, trying to get full implementation of that in D.C. And so that's one of my roles.
Those both sound really interesting and fulfilling. I mean, having that connection to folks is really cool. What got you involved in this work?
So my shared lived experience myself, I was incarcerated. I did 24 years. I was a juvenile. Been home 6 years now. I was Free Minds Book Club member when I was incarcerated. I met them at DC jail. They came to DC jail when I was there before I came home. And so that's how I got involved.
Great. So yeah, connecting with people who have lived through what you have, that's gotta be really cool. And why do you think programs like what Free Minds does are important, and what does it mean to people who are participating in the program?
We really affect the recidivism rate. We not only are we a poetry organization, we also work with reentry.
Mhm.
And through our reentry programs, we help people with like job readiness, resume writing. They have a coach through the organization. The coaches are really helpful when guys, get into hardship, re-enter society after lengthy stays in prison. It's just like a family. We don't even call it a program. It's like a Free Minds family. We meet every Wednesday on a Zoom call. It'll be over 200 people sometimes on a Zoom meeting, and people share resources. It's a family.
I think getting support from people who have lived through the things that you're going through is so much more meaningful than just having other people tell you what they think about your situation. Yeah, cool. Well, the ACLU of DC recently released a report and talking about building safety through resources. And in part of that report, we advocated for more funding, more support for reentry services like Free Minds Book Club, which we did actually call out in the report as being a really great example. And we shared research on why programs like this work and why investment is important in making sure people returning back to DC from incarceration are set up for success. So in your experience, your own and what you've seen in your fellow members of the program going through it, your family members, what can you talk about that has been most effective in supporting people in the reentry and why that matters?
What most effective, just because everyone's situation is different coming home from prison. Like gentrification has had a big effect on DC, and people that have left in the 90s coming home, they probably don't even have no family here with no support. So just through our reentry program, having that support, tech skills, helping guys get reacclimated through it's just so many different opportunities that Free Minds like it can do it to get like connected to advocacy opportunities. Like we have the change makers, where people that was incarcerated come home and get to go in front of Congress or and try to advocate on behalf of those that's left behind to keep laws that's favorable to reentry.
You talking about that makes it even more impactful when you mention that it's family, not a program. If people are coming home and their family they left when they went to be incarcerated are no longer here, just having people you can turn to, ask advice from, go to for help. That's family. That's I understand why you called it that. Yeah. And are there any common issues that you see that people who are returning from incarceration have, besides maybe losing family? Any like specific problems that they might encounter that Free Minds or other programs can help them with?
So for myself, the issues that I had when I first came home 6 years ago are not the issues I have now.
Mm-hmm.
So just seeing things evolve, like it was a much more favorable city to return to when I came home 6 years ago. It was a more robust reentry. They had so many different opportunities in DC, but now it's kind of drying up. Guys like the ban the box movement, I thought that was a real thing, but now it seems like a lot of people are starting to lose their jobs when they find out they had a conviction. They weren't doing that at first. Tech skills guys not really having tech skills coming home, trying to get a job in the modern economy and just trying to find ways to get employed. But employment is always a big deal when you come home.
Yeah, making sure people get training and you're right, like just looking over, everyone needs someone to look over a resume when they apply to a job. So having that built-in support to really help people land the jobs that they can become support themselves. And yeah, very, very good. And when you're talking to your family, other folks around, have you heard any stories that show you what has really helped people out or what maybe they need more of?
I think one thing that helped a lot of people out is the credit builder program. It was a program that they had. I don't even know if they still do it, but where you get a secured credit card. Because, even myself, I came home and went into a store and you were like, don't take cash. I was like, what is this? Like, you know what I'm saying? So just getting acclimated with credit and the support that they gave at that time, give you a secure credit card, you use it, prove, keep a utilization low, and then it becomes unsecured and they give you some extra money to put towards it. So
yeah, I mean, I think things that a lot of people probably take for granted in their normal lives can be a struggle, and just helping get those daily things that you need to exist in place can be hard.
Yeah, even speaking of that, like even the phones be a challenge for some of the guys,
Right. I mean, you need money to get a phone, you need credit to get a phone.
And navigating the phone, usually even connecting on the Zoom. We have an extra, on our weekly Zoom meeting, we meet like 30 minutes earlier so guys can get on there and get like tech skills. One of our members, Carlos, he'll walk them through just use how to access a Zoom meeting and stuff like that.
Yeah. Right. Because I think, the first time you do these things, it's hard and then you get into the habit of it. But yeah, if you've been incarcerated prior to everyone using Zoom, you've got to learn how to use it. So yeah, and that's something, right, that an outsider might not think of, but somebody who's been through it really can understand that feeling of just not knowing how to use something that everyone else is using.
It can be tough.
Yeah. Okay. So thinking about your family, your friends in Free Minds with you, what are some of the things you've heard from them that have been their greatest needs when they're coming back from being incarcerated, and what's most helpful to them?
Most helpful for people coming home, I think, is tech skills. I think people need to be trained and helped and supported with gaining tech skills. Credit building program that we had at Free Minds, that is something that's really helpful. This just housing, employment, those are some of the things that's really, really needed for a person coming home after so many years.
So I can understand, but it's not something that would have occurred to me. And I think that's the benefit of a program that is working with other formerly incarcerated people so that you all know the experience there. That's really great. And yeah, it's just such a basic need and to get ahead, and you can't really do much of anything without that credit card.
And I don't think I see any other programs doing something like that.
Yeah, very cool. And thinking about maybe programs that aren't offered or things that should grow, what other needs do you see among your family in this program, and what do people need, or in the future, what might you see this program growing into?
Housing is a big deal because a lot of people coming home, family no longer live in DC or no longer can afford to live in DC. So housing support, jobs that don't discriminate because someone has a conviction. Mainly housing though, and jobs. I guess that's always going to be a need.
That's what everyone needs. I think finding that commonality that we all have. We all want to be safe and secure in a home. We all want to have a job to provide for our families and have connections and family and friends, and we can all feel that. So thank you for sharing. If people are hearing about Free Minds for the first time and they're like, that sounds like a really cool program, are there ways that people can get involved?
Definitely, they could go to our website and see what opportunities are available on the site. And that's probably the best way.
and then maybe get involved in reading some poetry?
Oh yeah, definitely. They could definitely host a write night. Different organizations, and we always willing to come to people organizations. We go to law office, schools, high schools, inside a juvenile facility. I facilitate a book club once a week. So yeah.
That's very good. And do people need any poetry background to do that?
Nah, you don't need a poetry background. All you just need is a willing heart and just come and just be ready to prepare to read the poetry and give feedback.
Just an openness. I think a lot of people are scared of poetry. So knowing that all you need to do is be willing to read it.
That's it.
Very cool. I like that. I like that a lot. And if getting away from a little bit of this, the work that you're doing, but talking about you as a person who lives in the DC area, what do you love about DC? What do you like about being here? And yeah, anything that you want people to know about.
I love DC. I love the fact that we've been so progressive over the years. Even with the Incarceration Reduction Amendment Act, we kind of led the way on being less. It's progressive in a way the law was written that gives people a second chance. Our second look laws are probably second to none, giving people an opportunity to prove themselves to be ready to re-enter society. These are not laws that get out of jail free cards. You have to actually earn your way out. And for myself, I'm just a hardworking person. I'm a mentor to juveniles, at-risk juveniles. I'm co-executive director of a nonprofit, co-director Anthony Petty.
What's your nonprofit? Give us the name.
Neighbors for Justice. I'm a landlord. I do a lot, and I'm just trying to see the city do well.
That is a lot of hats to be wearing, but must give you various different perspectives on DC and really gives you an opportunity to interact with a lot of different people.
Definitely.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's one of the great things about DC is there's so many different people from so many different backgrounds, and we can all interact and learn from each other.
Yes, I agree.
Great. Well, James, thank you so much for joining today, sharing your story, your own personal background, as well as what you see within Free Minds. Really, I appreciate you sharing that with us.
Yes, please go to Free Minds website. Look at some of the stuff we're doing. Some amazing people part of Free Minds.
Great. Yeah, definitely a good plug. Thank you so much. So I'd love for you to tell us anything about it and read that poem for us to hear.
So as a poet ambassador, it would be numerous poems that would be laid out amongst the participants. And I will read, they would ask me to read a poem. If it says, I Want to Be Loved by Sierra. We don't use their name because, just one. And I want to be loved, not no fake love. I want to be loved not for what I got, but for who I am. I want to be loved, honored, cherished, and respected in a respectable way. I just want people to love me for who I am. I don't want that I'm obligated love because we are kin. I want genuine love for who I am. Love to me is loyalty over everything.
That's it for this episode of A More Perfect District, a podcast from the ACLU of DC. I'm Amber Taylor, Strategic Communications Director. Thanks for spending time with us. Join us next time as we break down the civil rights and civil liberties issues impacting Washington, D.C. For show notes and ways to take action, right now, visit acludc.org/podcast. And don't forget to follow, rate, and share this podcast to help more people stay informed. Till next time.